Hello everybody, it is Nico V here, and today I wanted to bring you a short video on Halo Infinite. And as the title suggests, the topic will be, should you use a controller or a mouse and keyboard to play Halo Infinite? And there's a couple reasons that I wanted to make this video. I think the first is because historically Halo has released strictly on Xbox, and then the game's got PC releases later on, so there wasn't much room for debate of whether you should use a controller or a mouse and keyboard or what was better. You pretty much just had to use a controller, right? And then the second reason is because free-to-play multiplayer, which is a great thing. It's going to bring in a lot of new faces, and I feel there may be some people out there that might be playing on mouse and keyboard, and they might think that Halo is a little harder than it needs to be. So without further ado, we will get right into the video. Now, I do want to say, actually, before we start getting into the nitty-gritty, that this is really more to help people that are on the fence. Like, a couple of my friends were on the fence of whether they like mouse and keyboard or controller better for Halo. It's not really aimed for people who are super comfortable with mouse and keyboard and dislike using controller, or vice versa. I think that you can be successful with either one, but I do think that the both options do have advantages over the other, namely the controller. I'll say right now early, because this is my controller. I have both plugged in right now because I am playing this on PC. I'm gonna say right now that I think that controller is a lot easier to use than mouse and keyboard, and I'm going to get into the reasons why, and I'll do pros and cons and stuff like that, so you can decide for yourself which you would prefer. All right, so we are in the firing range now, and I'm gonna make the point clear again, just to say it, just so everybody knows exactly where I'm coming from. I do think that controller is considerably easier to use than mouse and keyboard. Again, if you're kind of comfortable with both, if you can use both, you can't use, like, if you're a person that thinks that controller is just like unbearable to play shooters on, then it won't, this isn't really gonna help you. Again, more aimed towards people on the fence, but before we get into why I think controller is better, we'll get into the Halo meta first. So Halo is an interesting game. Halo has a lot longer time to kill than other games, except maybe Apex Legends, games like COD and Battlefield. You pretty much flick to somebody and you kill them. But Halo, each Spartan has a shield. I'm sure if you guys have been playing this, you know by now. Each Spartan has a shield. You need to pop the shield, and then you need to shoot them and kill them. Now, one thing some people might not know is that there are actually no headshot multipliers as long as you're shooting the shield. The headshot multiplier only happens if you shoot them in the head while they don't have a shield on. And an important part of Halo is the precision weapons like this battle rifle here, iconic weapon of the franchise. And essentially your goal when you're trying to kill somebody is you want to get their shields down and then shoot them in the head. Battle rifle, one very common method of doing this is the 4-shot. I'll grab it right here. So if you look at somebody, if I shoot this guy 4 times in the head, he will die. But if you also notice, you can shoot him in the body 3 times, and then I tried to make the recoil climb up there. So basically the last shot in that last 3-round burst hit him. So it will take the same amount of shots if you hit somebody in the head as when you hit them in the body. So yeah, that's essentially the meta that I'm trying to explain. And I'm also realizing that these drills are pretty short, so I'm gonna have to reload here before I continue my point. Okay, everybody, so I have reloaded the firing range, and I'm gonna be talking about the pros of a controller now. And the big one to talk about is obviously aim assist. It's a soft aim assist. It's not a hard aim assist. For those of you that don't know, what aim assist does is when you're using a controller to make it a little easier on you, because you cannot be as precise with the controller as a mouse and keyboard. It's just impossible. What the game does is it kind of, if you put your cursor near an enemy, it kind of sticks to them a little bit. Sometimes it tracks them even. It's not an auto aim or anything like that. It's still hard to get kills, but you do have a little bit of help when you're using a controller in Halo. So just to demonstrate that here, I will take this sniper, and again, I am using my controller. I'll try to show you guys. So if you see my sensitivity, my consistent sensitivity here, if I pan over this guy, it slows down for a little bit, and that is essentially the aim assist kind of sticking to the target, if that makes sense. This is something that has been obviously in Halo. Halo is actually the game that kind of put aim assist, soft aim assist, on the map. Again, kind of revolutionized shooters for consoles, but that's essentially what aim assist is, and it is very important, and I will explain why in the next scene. Now, what you can do with the controller here is you can basically just kind of just kind of push it onto somebody, and then you really only have to worry about the final shot in your burst to hit the head. If somebody's like jiggling around like this, you know, trying to strafe you, it's a little easier with controller to follow them, as you can see like this, just because of the aim assist. It's a little easier to track, and I know that tracking is a very hard skill that in FPS with mouse and keyboard, it's a skill that it's definitely my worst skill, and I've heard that it's a pretty tough skill to learn. So I think that the aim assist helping with tracking is the biggest reason with why it is so good. All right, so now I am on mouse and keyboard. I'll show you guys that right now. It says, I don't know if you guys can see that. Press E to pick up the MK50 sidekick. So we are on mouse and keyboard right now, and we'll go over the pros and cons. Pros, obviously, you're aiming with your entire arm versus your thumb, so flicking to things will be a lot more precise. You'll probably have a higher sensitivity, so you can react to things. You'll be able to spin a little faster. Stuff like that. Like it is generally easier to aim with a mouse and keyboard versus a controller. Especially if you have a gun like this, like the MK50 Sidekick, a pretty good pistol. But the thing with this gun is that, I didn't mention this earlier, but guns do have different levels of aim assist. This one's aim assist feels a lot weaker than something like the battle rifles. So if you're using a mouse and keyboard and you can just really hit those shots, you'll have better control, especially over farther ranges. And if you can make all those shots count, then you'll have a very good time using weapons like this. So now I'll talk about the cons of mouse and keyboard, and I really think it more boils down to just the mechanics of how Halo plays. When you're using a controller, you can kind of just be sloppy with it, because you can just kind of push the stick onto somebody, kind of let the aim assist do a good amount of the work, and then you have to worry about getting the headshot in the end. If I use something like the battle rifle here, if you notice, I don't think my sensitivity is great right now, but I will try to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Me with my mouse and keyboard, I have to worry about landing every single shot in each fight. And in a multiplayer fight, obviously things are not going to be as choreographed as this, right? They'll be a lot harder, the target will be shooting back, and when you're playing Halo and you're trying to kill somebody, it's essentially a race. To try to lower the person's shields and then hit them in the head. And I just think that with mouse and keyboard, you have a lot more room to make mistakes, I should say. Controller, just push the stick onto somebody, keep blasting until their shields are gone, and then try to flick up for that final headshot. And essentially, that's what my entire argument boils down to, why I think controller is better than mouse and keyboard. However, there is also one more really big reason that I think that controller is better than mouse and keyboard, and I will get into that right now. All right, so another big reason, and this is kind of the one that pushes it over the edge for me for why I very much prefer controller, is the vehicles. I think this is something that people don't really consider a lot when choosing whether to play mouse and keyboard, and it is that Halo has vehicles. Obviously, these aren't going to be around in competitive, so I wouldn't worry too much about this if that's all you're doing, but vehicles definitely feel a lot better on a controller than a mouse and keyboard. And the reason for that is because you have to steer with the mouse, and I just feel like it is a lot more intuitive to steer, I should say, with the sticks than the mouse. I just betrayed my teammate right there. Sorry, it was just a bot. Don't worry about it. All right, and that's going to do it for the video, guys. Just to reiterate my points, I'll just summarize them really quickly. Personally, I think controller makes the game a lot easier. I think you have to work less because this game is based on tracking. You want to kill your opponents as fast as possible. And I think that controller has a bigger margin for error than a mouse and keyboard does. Comes down to the tracking and the way shields work. When you're using a mouse and keyboard, you manually have to hit all those shots. If you're using a controller, you can kind of let the aim assist carry you a little bit. And also vehicles. Vehicles are a big thing. Again, I think that if you have your mind made up, if you really prefer mouse and keyboard with the other, it doesn't mean that you won't succeed with it. It doesn't mean that at all. And maybe if you're a controller player and you think that mouse and keyboard is for you, you can make the switch. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. My name is Nico V. I'll see you all next time.